Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio with, I said Sturdio, here we go, let's throw Eddie off, with
Eddie!
There we go, alright, at least Eddie got his line right. Yeah. Sturdio. Welcome to the Sturdio, it's very sturdy.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty solid.
It's better well built than,
I've seen some sketchy setups.
Well, yeah, I've had sketchier setups. I've had, this puppy actually used to be on wheels and used to like cover up a door at one point, but I forgot to put, like, the wheels are on all of the edges essentially, so there was nothing in the middle, so then it started bowing in the middle. Did you know that like an IKEA shelf can just bow in the middle if you put supports on all the ends and not in the middle?
And an electrician should not look around here.
No.
They would have nightmares.
No, not at all. But I guess this somehow is going to segue into the episode, because this was like a roaming, IKEA shelf.
It's been a meandering conversation.
It's meandering, exactly. And so we're talking about what card on this episode, Eddie?
A roaming throne.
There we go. Look at that. See, segue. This was all intentional by starting off with the word Sturdio. All right, great start. So, on this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the most absurd cards of this year. That, I mean, when you first saw it spoiled, were you thinking it was? I mean, thought it was pretty crazy and out there, but just the more layers that you kind of take away from it, you're like, okay, that's even more broken and absurd than we even thought when it first came out.
Absolutely. So like normally what I do is I have my list of decks that I have, and then I like look at a set and I'm like, okay, cool. What cards do I want from this set for my personal decks? And I came to the Roaming Throne, this card, and I'm like, this deck wants that.
Check.
This deck wants that. That deck wants that. And I just like, it was obscene and how many decks work.
Add to cart 10 of them, $150 now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think that's going to end up being a deal. This card's only going to go up. Yeah.
I think before the episode, we were literally saying, Eddie was saying basically that if it's not reprinted, this is just going to keep going up, up, and up, and up. Because again, like the amount of decks that can use it is absurd.
Yeah.
Because, all right, we've kind of gone around the card real quick. Eddie, why don't you read it real quick?
Roaming Throne. It's a 4-mana artifact creature golem. It's a 4/4. So it's on rate, pretty good. It has Ward 2, so it can protect itself. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. And if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So just to really lay the groundwork here, a triggered ability in Magic the Gathering rules is any line of text that begins with when, whenever, and at. So like at the beginning of the end step, when something enters the battlefield, when something attacks, like anything that's templated in that when, whenever, or at phrasing, that's a triggered ability.
And if you're Eddie, you're very good at Scryfall searches and can do a Scryfall search that says, hey, all these things have this.
Yeah, I think I did a search just for commanders that have triggered abilities. And I'm going a little off memory here, but as of this recording, I want to say it was 1,396.
Out of like 2,000 something?
Well, I don't even know how many commanders there are. But like, I mean, there's a little over 20,000 cards.
Yeah, an absurd amount.
Yeah, there's a huge plurality of commanders use triggered abilities.
And even if your commander does not have one, if it is a commander that has, a tribal typal deck, essentially, whatever it is, you have all of those other creatures in the deck, those like Lord type effects or whatnot. You have those kind of creatures that can just trigger off of that anyways, because again, it's all creatures. It's not just, like one of your creatures. It is all creatures of that type. Yeah. So it is not just for those kinds of decks. It's for,
even if you're not in a, typal deck where you have a bunch of a certain creature type, if your commander is reliant enough on triggered abilities, you don't have to have any other creatures that care about this ability. Even if your commander, you can just name your commander's type. And you're good.
And that, I feel like more decks, again, there's only so many that are tribal dependent, typal dependent, that you essentially will have, again, most of them are going to be like just, my commander could utilize this. I'm just going to get this in play. It's going to double up my commander's trigger, and it's just worth it. It's just worth it. And again, it has Ward 2 on it because Blizzard just feels like slapping Ward 2 on it.
Well, and did you know Ward is a triggered ability? So if the creature type you choose
you gotta be kidding
has Ward, like it says other creatures, so it doesn't
it doesn't apply to itself.
That, but like let's say,
are you kidding? I didn't even think about that.
Like, one that comes off the top of my head, Treebeard. It's one that we'll talk about later.
Ward 2.
It has Ward 2. And so if your opponent tries to target it, they have to pay 2 twice. And if they fail to do that either time, then
Oh my gosh.
the thing gets countered.
That's insane. That is absolutely
ward is
insane.
a
Or yeah, Miriam I think also has ward, right? So
Miriam,
whatever that name is. Yeah, my goodness. So yeah, I mean the amount of applications for this are just absurd. And Eddie put together I think we've got 73 other cards outside
Yeah,
this.
we're not going to go into depth on all of them. I
No.
kind of categorized them out so we can cruise through them. But I just want to show some of the absurdity that you might see at tables across from you, some of the absurdity you might want to include in your own decks.
100%.
And just to appreciate how ridiculous this card is.
Yep, and how like they did not limit it at all, really, at all. But yeah, just let's go through some to show it off. Okay, so we're gonna start things off with looks like Aragorn Hornburg Hero was the first one.
So this
in
category,
double the double.
I called it double the double.
Okay.
So Aragorn Hornburg Hero. Just for the brevity of this episode, there might be extra text on these cards that isn't triggered abilities. I think I'm just going to stick to the triggered ability.
Yeah, just to make it simpler.
So Aragorn cares about renown. It says whenever a creature with renown deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, put a counter on it. So renown, that's a triggered ability. And Aragorn says whenever a renowned creature you control deals combat damage to a player, double the number of counters on it. So, for example, if you have a renowned creature, let's say it just has 1 counter on it.
Yep.
You put you double the number of counters on it, so that triggers twice. So then you put 2, goes to 4. So you quadruple.
You quadruple
any
your counters.
existing counters on creatures.
Yep.
In addition to putting counters on things that hadn't been renowned before.
Goodness gracious.
So again, double the double. Normally Aragorn is good enough just doubling your counters. This time you get 4 of any existing.
Basically just turning into a quadruple effect, which is just absolutely, I mean, that speeds up your process just a little bit. Just by having a Wandering Throne in play that's hard to deal with.
Wandering Throne.
All right, moving on. Bright Palm Soul Awakener.
Yes, this is another one that has 2 triggered abilities, even though it's like hidden in
Backup 1.
Backup 1 is a keyword, but the keyword has rules that is a triggered ability.
100%.
So backup 1 puts a counter on another creature you control, and then that creature gets the rest of the text on the card. So Bright Palm says whenever this creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature, and it can't be jump blocked by a creature with power 2 or less. So you not only get to do that, but you can put 2 counters on the same creature or spread them out, and then you double the double. You just go absurd. Your creatures are gonna get crazy, and like a lot of times you don't want to like put all of your eggs in one basket because it can just get removed. But if you choose the backup 1 and put it on 2 different creatures, great.
You have 2 baskets.
You have 2 baskets. 2 baskets are better than 1 sometimes. Or the crazy part is with backup, they each trigger independently. There's that one card that has like backup 1, backup 1, backup 1, right? So if you put backup 1 twice on the same creature, it gets Bright Palm's text box twice, and each of those abilities triggers an additional time.
That's pretty crazy. Have fun. Yeah, lots of math here.
Yeah, you're gonna need a calculator.
Yeah,
this one is yours. This next one.
I have. Thank you. So Mr. Orfeo the Boulder, one of my favorite decks that I have, and I keep playing that. I love it. Whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. So that's pretty straightforward, I believe. So this would just be, hey, just double it up. So yeah, you could just quadruple a creature's power. Which in that case, if this was a budget card, Roaming Throne would be right. In this deck, it is not budget. It cannot be in my Hotline Fling deck, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. But yeah, so basically quadrupling a creature or doubling up 2 separate creatures would be good too.
Myrel, Shield of Argive, and I looked a little on EDH Rec of like, okay, who's actually like playing Roaming Throne, and this one's like one of the top commanders.
That makes sense.
That includes Roaming Throne. It's from the Brothers' War. Muriel says whenever she attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control.
Absurd.
So each of those triggers separately. So like, let's say you have 5 soldiers. Then you create 5 soldiers with the first trigger. That triggers again, so then you have 10 soldiers, so you create 10. So you just made 15 soldiers.
So you'll be making 3 times more than you already would have, or you would have been making, essentially. Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Ridiculous.
And again, a commander that's very powerful and already, doesn't really need that kind of help.
And this one is one that really leads into that Typals part 2, because you're probably going to be playing other soldiers. Those 100%. Other soldiers will probably 100%. Have some triggered abilities.
Yeah, definitely. And again, another Typal one too, like Arabo, Roar of the World. You're probably running Cat Typal with that. A 5/5 cat avatar. Eminence, the beginning of comedy, your turn. If it's in the command zone or the battlefield, another target cat gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Another cat you control attacks, you may pay 1 in Selesnya colors. If you do, it gains trample and gets +X/+X until X is its power. So, doubling up that could be quite effective, I would think, especially, again, because you're going to have some really big cats. So either just doubling it and doubling it again, or just doing the other one. Quite nice.
Yeah, and Rabo, like I said, they're templated when, whenever, or at. So Rabo is one of those eminence commanders, so it gets the ability in the command zone.
Yep.
If you happen to put Rabo into play, which probably doesn't happen too much, but that first one is also a triggered ability at the beginning of
Even if
combat
it's
on your
just
turn.
in your command zone.
Yeah, so you already will do that first and give something +6/+6, and then you will double it and then double that. So
That's
at
absolutely
minimum,
crazy.
you're going to 12, 24, +4 times whatever their base power is.
Yep. Lovely. Okay, speaking of power boosts, God Eternal Ronus.
God Eternal
My
Ronus.
goodness.
Yeah, when he enters the battlefield, double the power of each creature you control until the end of the turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until the end of the turn. So you quadruple all of your creatures' power.
You basically...
Crater Hoof can...
I was going to say, if you can get trample on your creatures, you probably win. I mean, or just get them through in other ways, or just take out your opponent's armies. Yeah, have fun with that. Akuan, Eye of Chaos. Whenever a player wins a coin flip, double its power and toughness until end of turn. Oh, and
forget the
also,
first one.
at the beginning of combat of your turn, again, I'm trying to skip the ones that don't matter, but yeah, at beginning of combat of your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. So do that twice.
Yep.
And then instead of doubling, you're quadrupling. So you're doubling up your flips, and you're also quadrupling every single time you hit on a flip.
Yeah.
So very, very easily, you're going to be getting to absurd numbers. If you just win 1, you're going up to 12. You win 2, you're going up to 24. Absolutely absurd. So there you go. Felice, Reverend
this
Medium.
is another one that's crazy.
Oh,
Felice,
yeah.
at the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying,
my
where X
gosh.
is the number of tokens you created this turn. So Felice is all about making tokens.
Yep.
You make 5 tokens.
Yep.
Very easy to do.
Very simple.
You get this ability twice. It's at the beginning of the end step. So you get 5, and then you get you just made 5 more tokens. So then you've made 10 tokens.
Yep.
Go up to 20.
Basically sees what it just did. It's like, oh, I just did that. I'd like to make even more.
Yep.
Yeah. Thrakus the Butcher. Whenever it attacks, double the power of each dragon you control until end of turn, because dragons needed, a quadrupler. On
Yeah,
attack.
this is like Orfeo, but also Dragon Tribal.
Yeah.
So it's going to also, you're going to name Dragon.
Yep.
And you will get more triggers on all of your other dragons.
My goodness. Yeah, I mean, there's so many dragons. We already talked about Myriam, whatever the name is.
Yep.
Yeah, just even more triggers. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Xenagos, God of Revels. Beginning of combat of your turn, no target creature you control gains haste against +X/+X till turn X its power. So again, you can either choose 2 separate creatures, or more likely your priority is picking 1 massive creature, making it twice as massive, and then making it quadruple as massive,
Yeah,
essentially.
although this one's a bit interesting. Xenagos is one of those that isn't a creature unless you have Devotion to 7. Roaming Throne needs it to be a creature.
That's very cool.
So you
Good
can
point.
only double the triggers if it has its devotion met.
We know that issue is definitely going to come up in games.
Yeah, so just wanted to call that one out.
I would be making that mistake every single time. Be like, and now I attack, and then people are like, oh, that doesn't work that way. Like, oh,
And if that's you,
yeah.
then you want to play this next one.
Oh, there we go.
Zapandrel.
Because this doesn't matter. This is a creature.
It is a creature. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control
There you
until the
go.
end of the turn.
And this is already a creature, so we're good to go.
It's already a creature. It's each combat,
You
not
can
just
also
your combat.
You can also make it indestructible very, very easily.
Yeah,
For basically
absolutely.
4 life. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Absolutely
that's
crazy.
our double the double. That's
Double
like
double.
whatever you were doing,
Yep.
it's 4 times as
This
good
is
now.
the tip of the iceberg of, again, how many commanders this impacts, though.
Yeah, just the tip.
Again.
And this is going to the next category,
Yep.
which I just titled Just Plain Good.
I like that.
Like, this isn't going to be doubling the double or
Yep.
anything like that, but these are just triggered abilities.
Oh,
that
no,
have-
you don't get a quadruple effect.
No,
you get just a double.
no, yeah, but they have like such a huge effect on the
Yep.
game. These are the types of commanders that, like, even if you're not in a tribal deck or a typal deck,
Yep.
that you probably still want to put Roman
I'm
Throne in
just
here.
seeing the first couple of like, yep. Iriate of the Charmed Apple.
Yep.
Iriate. I'm really terrible with names. Yeah.
No comment.
No comment. All right. Yeah, you're not gonna go. You're not gonna try that one. All right. Beginning of your
I'd say
end step.
Ariat.
Ariat. There we
Sounds
go.
more-
At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life for X the number of auras you control. So basically, that's just twice as many auras as you control, essentially.
Like,
So
you don't have to play any other humans. You don't have to play any other warlocks.
don't do
whatever.
anything. Yeah, you can pick either one of those types.
This is definitely a commander-centric deck.
Yep.
And so you're going to be really leaning on that trigger
Yep.
ability. That's why you built the deck. And so
One would hope that you have a lot of auras in just your commander in that deck. And if you don't, you're probably doing it wrong. Moving on, Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose. 1/3 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Twice that much life.
Yep, that's basically what is it? The
Sanguine Bond.
Sanguine. I mean, yeah. This is gonna be chock full of like Sanguine Bond. There's also the one where whenever you lose life equal to the amount of life you've lost this turn, Wound Reflection.
Doublers.
maybe?
Wound Reflection.
Yeah, stuff like that. So
Lots of fun.
This one is from the upcoming Fallout crossover.
So technically
set.
not out yet, I don't think.
Not out yet.
Yeah. So yeah,
No,
I mean, you
no,
can proxy it. You can proxy it if you want to start off with
or
this.
if you're putting a list together, just keep Roaming Throne in mind when you're ordering the deck.
With your player's permission, you can proxy it.
Yeah. Caesar, Legion's Emperor, 4 mana, Mardu Commander, Human Soldier, 4/4. It says, whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. Second mode, draw a card and lose a life. Third mode, Caesar, Legion's Emperor, deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So that's an attack trigger.
Yep.
So you can use for example, I mean, you can really use it to suit whatever you need. Do you need card draw? Do you need to go wide? Do you need to seal the deal with that damage?
Yep.
Like if you choose the first time to just create 2 tokens and then, deal damage, then congratulations.
Yeah.
You just dealt 2, but then you also choose those same modes again. Now all of a sudden you have 4 tokens and you deal 4. So you dealt 6 damage and made 4 tokens that are tapped and attacking.
Yeah, it's just kind of very flexible on what you can do with this by doubling that one up. Moving on, Immodane the Pyrohammer. Love this commander. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control that targets only a single creature, it deals damage to that creature. Immodane deals that much damage to each opponent. Basically a burn commander, kind of what many burn players out there have been waiting for. If I burninate a creature, it burninates my opponent's faces. That's absolutely lovely. You lightning bolt something for 1 mana, 3 damage. It now deals 12 damage in total, essentially, which is pretty crazy. But with Roaming Throne in play, that just doubles.
Yeah, it's
that
like
too.
Soulfim. Like the Soulfim doubles the non-combat damage. So this is like, this deck is going to be chock full of damage doublers, damage triplers. This is just added to this week.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Oh my. Oh, you go for it.
If you thought the doubling was nonsensical, this one is just going to make people scoop.
But this is only an uncommon commander. It's not that powerful.
Zada, Hedron Grinder, legendary creature goblin ally, 3/3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada, copy that spell for each other creature you control that spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. What more needs to be said? Like, you're going to cast Expedite, even at a base level. Like, let's say you have 5 other creatures. Expedites, gave a creature haste, draw a card. Now you've drawn 5
for
which
1
you
mana.
Normally do, and then you do it again. Draw 10 for 1 mana.
Yep. And also, again, on the ones that, I guess that probably, does that work? Eddie, I don't think it would. The ones that are like, hey, like ping a creature and make a 1/1 or whatnot, it would still only ping that. It wouldn't just re-ping the new creatures that were made, I wouldn't think. So you wouldn't just get to keep going for the... Let's get off of that. Anyways, crazy things happen with Zada.
I think it would, actually.
Would it? It would retarget the new ones?
Yeah, because the first trigger of Zada would resolve.
And I already moved on to the next one.
That's fine.
That's
the first trigger would resolve, and then any abilities that go onto the stack due to the spell would happen.
So
then
that would
the
happen.
second trigger would resolve.
Okay, so it would.
Yeah.
All right, so basically, you just...
Depending on the templating of the particular card.
Yeah.
It would probably work.
There you go. Joda the Unifier, which many of you already saw a preview of if you were paying attention. A 5/5 human wizard for Wooburg. Love Wooburg. Legend creature control at +X/+X number legendary creature control. I didn't have to read that one. Anyways, whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile from the top of your library to exile a legendary non-land card, lesser mana value. Rest, you can cast out paying its mana cost. There's so much text on this one.
I know.
Basically, you cascade. It's legendary cascade, okay? I should have just said that. You get it twice now.
Yeah.
Basically, you
very
cast
powerful ability.
Yeah, you cast a legendary that costs 5, you get 4 or less, 2 off the top for free. Absurd.
Yep.
All right, go to the next one before I embarrass myself further.
Simple. Aurelia the War Leader. She's an angel. She attacks a lot. She lets you attack even more. And now, rather than 1 extra combat phase after you attack, you get 2 extra combat phases. So 3 combat phases per turn. What could go wrong?
You probably just win, I would assume. I'd assume you probably win.
I assume so.
One would think you'd probably win with that. Speaking of winning, Tali Primal Storm. Just so funny. This is a card that like Wizard just reprints into the dirt, which I love. But like, I think it's one of the top played cards just like that as a commander, and also in the 99 because it's like such a fun but very powerful effect. Attacks, exile top card of each player's library. You may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. Yeah, again, we talked about how Joda's like, double cascade, essentially. This is like, you get free casts, 4 things off the top, and now with Roaming Throne, it's 8. And you can also choose Elder if you really want. There you go. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so we said Aurelia is pretty good. 3 combat phases seems fine, right? What about Morogue? Fury of Akum.
This one's kind of annoying though because of like when you have to do it, you have to know
yes.
when to do it because like there's like a weird rule where it's like, oh, you didn't do it properly like in your second main phase or whatnot, and then it's just oh, it's obnoxious. Okay, anyways, go ahead.
So Morogue says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So what Mitch was alluding to earlier is you want to have your first main phase.
Yep.
Go to combat.
Yep.
And then in your second main phase, that's when you want to play your lands to get the landfall trigger, because Morogue's trigger specifically says at the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So then when you move on to the extra combats, your creatures untap, you do it again and again and again. Obviously with Roaming Throne, you get not one, but 2 extra combats.
Yes.
But if you do it in the reverse order, if you play your lands in your first main phase, you will get Morogue's extra combat phases that use all the untap triggers.
Yep.
And then you'll go to your real main phase.
And you're not untapped.
And you don't untap.
Yep. So make sure you keep that in mind because it's just kind of a little annoying thing. So, but yes, but yeah, literally just a single land equals 2 extra combats, and an Evolving Wilds equals 4.
Yeah.
So
and I mean,
you
Wayfarer's Bauble.
Yeah.
There we go. We
there
got it in here.
We broke it. We broke it.
We broke the bauble.
Okay, next up, Rakdos, Patron of Chaos. This one's not even out yet either. Okay, again, proxy it if your playgroup's okay with it.
I tried to include some spicy ones.
Well done. 6/6 Demon with Flample. Beginning of your end step, target opponent may sacrifice 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. So either pick 2 separate opponents or the same opponent, just be very, very mean and probably draw 4.
You want to choose the same opponent.
You want to choose the same opponent to ensure, unless you like really like think that they'll actually sacrifice things that you want them to sacrifice. Then pick.
I mean, you can talk.
You can talk, but you're probably gonna want to draw the 4 and be like, you.
Yeah, it's kind of like Athreos, Scout of the Passage, where like you really want to target one person, so that way they don't really have a choice.
Yeah, there is no option essentially. I mean, there's barely an option just with the card as it's worded, but yeah, if you have Roaming Throne, no option at all.
No.
Oh, I forgot about this one. Even better than original Atali Bravo Conqueror. Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, so this is one when I was again going through my decks, like, oh, I might have to add this card. Atali is one of those. So Atali Primal Conqueror. When he enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So it's on an ETB rather than attack trigger, so you don't have to wait for a combat or haste or what have you, like the original Atali. And he filters the top until you
hit
a non-land.
Yes.
So you don't accidentally whiff and hit a bunch of lands.
There is no whiffing with this, and you double not whiff with Roaming Throne.
And this deck, does a lot of like effects that put in temporary copies of Atali just to really lean
Twin
into
Flame,
that.
essentially.
Yeah,
because
Flame
luckily you don't
effects.
have access to Cloud Shift type effects. Typically, like Conjurer's Closets, basically.
Yeah, but I would love to play my deck
Voyager
against like a Brago deck.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
if you play against either a clones deck or you play against a deck that has all blink effects, you are just golden with Atali.
Good.
You will literally just go through the entire deck most likely and probably just win by decking your opponents.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if there's a density of those types of effects, there's a card later on the road, but that truly might just straight up combo.
Oh, yeah.
With Roaming Throne to win the game.
All right, moving next, though.
Yeah.
Coma Cosmo Serpent. Notably, a Phyrexian now, but we never got the Phyrexian card. Wizards.
I need it.
It's a legendary serpent thingy, and it's just like, this thing's bigger than the entire world. Yeah. It's a Phyrexian now, but we've never seen it. Like, what? Yeah. You did like all these other miscellaneous ones that no one cared about, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, like we got Atali.
By the way, this one just was.
Atali, we did get the Phyrexianized version of.
And I think we found out like on a common, it was like a fight effect.
It was on Finn the Fangbearer was mentioned, and he defeated this Phyrexian Coma somehow.
Was it?
Yeah, because he's the Death Touch guy.
There you go. All right, 6/6 Serpent. Lots of things. Beginning of each upkeep, you get a 3/3, which is a Serpent, and you can decide to sacrifice that to make Coma indestructible, or also tap down things and they can't activate abilities. Now you get 2 each turn. So instead, with each turn on the table, again, getting 12 power across 4 bodies, you get 24 power across 8 bodies. You're never going to actually ever deal with this.
Coma's already absurd enough.
Yeah, you can't counter it, and now it's indestructible basically permanently, no matter what happens. And also, you can tap down so many things. Yeah. With one trip on the table, I can literally tap down like an entire person's board. Just like, oh, you've got all your lands? Tap.
Yep. Don't think so. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you're going to turn Coma to stacks with this, essentially.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is the one that I think a lot of people will really lean into because it came out in the same set. Well, it was reprinted in the same set.
It was definitely probably on top of mind when Wizards Wizards designed that one, I would think.
Gishath, Sun's Avatar.
Yep, with some sick new art.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Whenever Gishath deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. Put any number of dinosaur cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom in random order. So,
goodness.
Yeah, you don't dig 14 right away, but you do 2 instances of 7.
Yep.
And you're in a dinosaur tribal deck for sure.
Yep. So there you go. You get all the other ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Okay.
All right, next we've got multiple triggered abilities. So the first one was double the double. So this something is basically quadrupling.
Yep.
The last one is just plain good, basically. So just good. This one is there are 2 different things that trigger.
Yeah.
Essentially,
These are cards that like lean real hard into triggered abilities. They're commanders that might have 1, 2. I think there's one commander that has 4, and maybe one that has 5 different triggered abilities on it. And so these are some of the spicier ones.
All right, real quick, everyone in the council, please blame Eddie for working so hard on all this and giving everyone this information to just destroy things with commanders, and also just making this a great episode for where we can just talk about all these amazing commanders and what they do. Thank you for doing the research. Yeah. But also blame you. All right, first up, Gyrston Star and Keller Morph. We've got Ward 2, which again you reminded me now that is whenever. So yeah, Ward, that is going to trip up so many players. They're gonna like and also if the person is a real mean person, they're gonna be like, technically you already cast your Path to Exile on my commander, and then you couldn't pay the 4 but you paid the 2, so it doesn't count, so ha ha ha.
Someone will do that.
Yeah, no, be nice and let them redo that, because that's a weird rule. Come on, people. Okay, anyways, and then also whenever another source you control deals exactly what damage to a permanent player, it deals 2 instead. Basically Timmy Tribal ping effects, and now it's 4 instead. Yeah, instead of 1, it's 4.
Yeah, it's a bit like Ariat in that it's going to be a very commander.
Oh, so you did say the name, so that's apparently the name.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
I would say like this is not going to be a typal deck. Like you're just going to say Tyrannid or Human for the most part. But
Tyrannid gets this fun.
The entire deck is built around this ability, so you're going to want to double.
You're probably going to say Human. Actually, there's probably some humans that are like those multiple Timmy kind of effects, essentially, that might trigger as well. Yep. So
next one, also one of the guest stars in the Ixalan set, Henry Wu, InGen Geneticist. It basically gives himself and other humans you control have Exploit. Exploit is a triggered ability. It says when a creature with Exploit enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. And it says whenever a creature you control exploits a non-human creature, draw a card. If the exploited creatures had power 3 or greater, create a treasure token. So again, you have one, in this case, human, enter the battlefield. It exploits a non-human creature.
Yep.
And you can do that twice.
Yep.
So you can exploit 2 different creatures if you have enough creatures on board for that. And for each of those exploitations, you will get 2 triggers.
2 cards
of the second paragraph for drawing cards and treasures. So you're getting 4.
My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. Just absolutely absurd. Yeah, when you told me just how this works with Exploit, it's just, you double up on the Exploit trigger and then also the thing that is triggering. Yeah. That's absolutely crazy. Also, I just kind of noticed there aren't many legendary creatures out there that are facing just away from camera.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No, that just threw me off of like, wait, he's facing away. Like,
yeah, I feel like some of the actors from Jurassic Park were like, yeah, go for it. Like,
that's probably what it was.
And this guy didn't want to sign the paper.
You are right. That is what it was. Yeah. All right. Comment below if you know the number of legendary creatures out there that are not facing you, essentially. There's probably like less than.
He's too busy exploiting dinosaurs.
There's got to be like it's probably this one. It's probably like this one and nothing else. I would assume.
Probably.
Good call on that. I didn't think about that. Yeah, likeness could not be used. All right. Moving on. Alayla Cunning Conqueror. Whenever you cast your first spell during your opponent's turn, instead of making 1/1 flying fairy, you are making 2, right? Essentially, another roaming throne. Whenever 1 or more of your fairies deal combat to a player, go to a creature that player controls. Now you're goading twice as many creatures as well. So yeah, very good. Double up the amount of fairies you make, and also double up the amount of goads. So yeah, you're basically quadrupling your goads essentially by making twice as many fairies.
If you have 3 opponents, you make this army of 1/1 fairies very easily.
Yep.
You send a fairy at each opponent. Now you can goad their 2 best creatures.
There you go.
Yeah.
Double goad.
Okay, so this is one that I was alluding to earlier.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that.
Aragorn the Uniter.
There you go.
He has brought a roaming throne and and Gondor with him.
He's on a horse on top of a roaming throne.
Yes. Whenever you cast a white spell, make a soldier. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2 twice. Whenever you cast a red spell, deal 3 damage to target opponent twice. Whenever you cast a green spell, target creature gets +4 twice.
So essentially, Yeah, just absurd army size, which you already had with this. Absurd scrying, dig down to your deck to get to what you need. Absurd lightning bolts on opponents' faces. And absurd massive growths, essentially, to make your commander into a 2-shot KO, very simply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just 4 different triggered abilities. No big deal. It's fine.
A lot to keep track of.
Fine.
I mean, you just might not want to play Roaming Throne in a deck like that. Just not keep track of all that. That's a lot.
Honestly, that's probably the takeaway of this whole episode.
Yeah, it's like, this is a lot. I mean, I don't know how long we've been recording at this point, but there are, again, so many commanders. We should probably go a little bit quicker through these.
Yeah, if you want to skip over one,
I'm just going to go, all right, we can let's just summarize the rest of the ones in this category, all right?
Yep.
And just go like, okay, Alenda the Duskgrows doubles up the number of counters and doubles up the number of tokens you're making. So basically quadruple your tokens.
Yeah, you're going to make her even swoller than before, and when she dies, she's going to pump out twice as many tokens.
Yep.
Elevere of the Wild Court says when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you make a roll token onto a creature.
2.
So you're going to put 2 rolls out onto something, and whenever an enchanted creature control deals damage to a player, draw a card. So
2 cards.
More rolls, more card draw.
Yep. Azuri, small creatures come into play, get 2 experience counters now, essentially.
Yep.
And then also, at the beginning of combat your turn, you get 2 triggers of pumping a creature by giving it the number of counters based on experience counters, so twice as many. So basically, so same creature if you want, or 2 separate creatures.
Very similar to Azuri, another Simic 4-mana 3/3. Hawkball of the Surging Soul, very popular right now because it's the head of a precon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each merfolk you control explores. This is another typal deck, so you're going to have a whole bunch of other merfolk in here. So you get to have each of them explore twice. And whenever it attacks, you may put a land from your hand on the battlefield if you don't draw a card. So you use those first abundance of triggers to just fill your land with hands. And then you get to put...
Did you say land with hands? I heard land with hands.
I probably did. Hand with lands.
Civic players just like lands.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Very similar to Azuri, we got Marin up next.
Marin of Clan Neltoth. Basically, again, double your experience counters whenever creatures die. And then also you get to reanimate 2 creatures based on your experience counter size, essentially. So there you go. Lots of great things. Narcy, go for it.
Whenever you sacrifice an enchantment, draw a card. Whenever the final chapter of ability of a saga resolves, each opponent loses life and you gain life, where X is that saga's mana value.
Oh my gosh.
Again, we're summarizing this, but each of these, when, whenever, or at. Yeah. Those are triggered abilities. So many of them.
If it has that on the card, it's probably good with it, most likely. Prosper, one of the most popular commanders of all time. Yeah, basically double impulse draw. Right, essentially.
Yep, you get double impulse draw, and when
then
you play,
double treasures.
Yeah, whenever you play a spell from exile, you get double the treasures.
Hey, Prosper players out there, don't play Roaming Throne. It's too good with Prosper. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
this one.
Oh my. Okay, this is why your infinite combo broken. Probably
this is
crazy.
One that could just go infinite.
Really easily, I'm sure. Oh
Radadrabic of Urborg, Vigilance, Ward 2. So again, Ward 2 twice.
I forgot
it says other zombies you control Vigilance. So like there might be a chance you're zombie tribal. I guess most of them probably aren't.
Maybe.
But, the big thing is
you're making zombie tribal.
Yeah. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it's a 2/2 zombie in addition to its other types.
But it's also a zombie, so you're also giving it to all the... You're also now Roaming Throning all of your legendaries, even if they weren't zombies.
Yeah.
Seriously, now they are.
Now they are zombies.
I didn't even realize that when we saw this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I almost want to build a Radadrabic.
No!
Just for Roaming Throne.
Just tutor out Roaming Throne, get into play, and just do absurd things that are probably a 30-minute turn, I'm assuming.
Hopefully.
Probably.
One can only hope.
Hopefully. Sovereign, Okonek, Ahu, I don't know how to say that name. Ward 2, so there you go, double that up. Also, whenever it attacks, based on the base power and the difference in base power on one of your creatures, it gets that many counters, essentially. So, therefore, hey, if your creature's a 1/1, and as an Anthem player or whatever, plus almost 1, it's getting now an extra 1, now it's getting twice as many. So
yeah, and since the triggers resolve
separately,
stack
and then stack.
They're going to increase your base power beyond even more, so the second trigger is going to add more than the first.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh, this one.
This one's creepy
This is the
at.
opposite of the one that was looking away from camera.
Oh, yeah.
This one is looking right at camera.
This one's looking into your soul. Whenever the Wise Mothman enters the battlefield or attacks, each player gets a rad counter. I'm going off memory, but I want to say rad counters say during your turn at some point you mill that many cards, and for each non-land you lose a life and get rid of a rad counter. So it's kind of like it's a little mill related at least. I don't remember
that. I don't remember what it is. So
I'll trust you. It's a triggered ability. And whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to X target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way.
Yep.
It doesn't say whenever one or more non-land cards you control are milled. Just whenever an opponent does this as well. Yeah. So those extra rad counters from the first ability are going to count.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, next up.
This is one of my favorites. You take it.
Yeah, Treevert. No, you take it's
No,
one of
I
your
got the one
favorites.
after that. I
You
got
already
the one
kind of
after
mentioned it earlier, but yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we were on the Ward 2. Good call.
Yeah, yeah.
Ward 2 right there. Enters the battlefield, 2 food, so now you make 4. Cool. Not really, I mean, it's nice. It kind of plays in the next part, but that's not the big part. Whenever you gain life with that many counters on target half like your tree folk, you could go tribal. You're probably more so going just like massive life gain effect, Voltron, like getting this through and taking out opponents by casting a Congregate, gaining probably 20 life, getting 20 counters on this, but then all of a sudden, no, it's 40 counters instead. So yeah, there are so many spells out there that just turn this into a one-shot KO already, and then even more so with Roaming Throne. It just makes it so much easier.
Plus it protects itself with Ward 2 twice.
Yeah,
so
Ward 2
very
twice. And again, like if you are one of those players who's going to be like a bit of a rules mean person, jerk, maybe, and being like, well, they cast another Path to Exile, they only had 2 mana available and they paid the 2, but then they couldn't pay the 4. Yeah, you're going to get away with that too, where players are going to think that they've got a solution for it and they don't.
All right, this is the deck that I have built next. Karazakar, the Eye Tyrant. You just name Beholder. Whenever you attack a player, tap target creature that player controls and goad it. So very similar to the Alayla Cunning Conqueror.
Yep.
You can goad 6 creatures your opponents control and tap them down, so that way they're more likely to get through. And in addition, whenever one of your opponents attacks another person, which is gonna happen, you and that player draw 2 cards and lose 2 life instead.
Yeah.
So
My goodness.
definitely gonna find the cards you want.
Next one, what you had previously built, but
I did. It was so annoying.
Thank you for not having it anymore.
Yeah, it was
I
super
wouldn't
strong.
say it was annoying. It just was very powerful.
It was annoying to pilot.
Yeah, there's a lot of tutoring with all the land
Yeah,
sacrificing.
it's just a lot of game actions.
Yeah.
So many
All
game
right.
actions.
ETBs or attacks sacrifice a permanent, and I do that twice. Normally that'd be a bad thing, but it's a very, very good thing for Korvold because whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you get a counter on it because Wizards, for whatever reason, needed to add that and also draw a card. So now you're doing that twice. So you literally get an Evolving Wilds out and sacrifice it, and you draw 2 cards.
4.
Why?
Wouldn't it be whenever you sacrifice another permanent? So you're well, I guess Evolving Wilds.
I was saying Evolving Wilds. Sorry.
Sorry. With his ETB trigger,
Oh.
you sacrifice 2
Oh,
things.
with the attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ETB. Okay, so yeah,
You sack 2 things. For
Yeah,
each
yeah,
of those
yeah.
sacrifices, you put 4 counters on them and draw 4 cards.
Yes. Okay, to start things off, yes. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. But I was just saying, even with just Evolving Wilds, yeah, you're right. You're right. The potential of that is even more absurd.
Yeah. Another top 20 commander of all time.
Is it still
Nekusar.
top 20?
He's like close at
Wow.
least. He's definitely one that
Really
people
hanging
know.
in there. All the wheel players out there really just loving
Oh
this
yeah,
and stuff.
trying. I mean, there hasn't been a new wheel commander yet.
Yep.
Nekusar. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. 2 cards.
Twice.
Whenever an opponent draws a card, deals 2 damage to that player.
Goodness. So kind of like build your own Shieldred a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But you also have access to blue and red.
So yeah, you literally
Shieldred also
you're dealing
would be very good
Yeah.
with Roaming Throne.
you're dealing 4 to each opponent essentially just by forcing them to go to their up or their draw step.
I think it would be 6, right? Because it's whenever the
Everyone's
opponent
gonna
draws
draw.
a card,
Oh, because they have to draw their
3
initial too.
cards.
Yeah, they're drawing their
Yeah.
initial too. Yeah, so there you go. Draw. Ooh, ouch. All right, this one actually. This is how you point out the exploit to me.
This is how I pitched the whole episode.
Good. Yeah, literally, this
Yeah.
was like the this plus this equals just bonkers. Okay, so CDC undid Vizier exploit. So again, that does double on ETB, so you get to exploit 2 creatures. When it exploits a creature, you can search life for a card, put in your hand, and then shuffle. So that doubles. So you basically are exploiting 2 creatures, tutoring for 4 cards for 5 mana.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you can find combos and win from there. And also, again, this is a commander. It might be the first commander I've actually brought up that actually can just get you 2 Roaming Throne to start things off.
Yeah, if
Right.
you need to. Mhm.
So there you go. Gross.
Yeah, because it doesn't say you sacrifice another creature.
No,
you
yeah,
could
you-
sacrifice Sidisi herself to get
Yep.
Roaming Throne, so she's back in the command zone, so you could recast
Redo
her
it.
later. So anyway.
Yeah.
Titania, Protector of Argoth, Elemental, and she gets extra lands back from your graveyard, twice
Yep.
as many now, and
Lovely.
puts more elementals out. So
Lovely.
nice and easy.
All right, Be'lakor, Dark Master, enters the battlefield, draw X card that looks like flex number of demons you control, so draw twice as many of that, and whenever demon enters the battlefield, basically Warstorm Surge. So Warstorm Surge doubled on demons, and yeah, and also again, you're probably going to be in a demon tribal deck as well, so yeah, that's going to double all that stuff up too. Lovely. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, Nim is it?
Parun. This spell can't be countered. Whenever you draw a card, deals 1 damage to any target. Triggered ability. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. So
Draw 2.
yeah, you're just gonna keep your hand full and just be a machine gun.
You literally, if you don't have, one of those no maximum hand size cards, you are going to be discarding plenty of cards because yeah, you're not going to be able to keep them in your hand. Moving on, Sauron the Dark
Oh, this is
Lord.
another fun one.
Ward. Oh, there's your ward again. All right, the opponent has to sacrifice 2 either legendary artifacts or legendary creatures, essentially, or a combination of both. Opponent has to expel a mass Orcs 1 twice. Whenever an army you control deals combat to a player, the ring tempts you twice. Whenever the ring tempts you, you can discard your hand if you draw 4 cards twice. So lots of fun to be had there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, you got the next one?
Also ridiculous once you think about it a little bit. Shelob, Child of Ungoliant. Death Touch, Ward 2, twice.
Ward 4.
Other spiders you control have Death Touch and Ward 2,
Twice.
And whenever a creature deals excess damage this turn by a spider dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a food artifact that has the ability to, gain you 3 life. So whenever a creature dies, you make 2 foods that are
two food copies.
Yeah.
Gross. Omnath. Get a land, get 2/5/5s. It dies or another elemental dies, 6 damage.
Yeah.
Basically. Oh, you get it. You go, Toxrill.
This one, I mean, anybody who plays Toxrill as a commander is already a toxic player by definition.
Toxrillic player.
Toxrillic. And at the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. So now you're putting 2 slime counters on each creature you don't control. They all get -1/-1 for each of those counters. And whenever one of those dies, you now make 2 slug tokens, which you can then feed to Toxrill.
My gosh.
Draw extra cards.
My gosh. Okay. All right. That is absurd.
We're going to take a little bit of a detour here in the middle.
All right.
Because I'm going to talk about a couple cards that I saw that were being added.
Good call.
A lot on EDH, right? These commanders were adding Roaming Throne, and I think that's kind of a mistake.
Because it's
not a mistake, but it's be aware of what you're doing.
Well, our category, the other ones had really clever names. This one is not near this clever. Non-bow, but being added a lot in EDH Rec.
That is creative genius.
Really creative right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Bernard, Ginger Sculptor. I can probably see why this one is being added, and then also why it shouldn't be added. But Eddie, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Yeah, let's see it.
Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. I think the problem is you may exile it is probably it. Look at me go. See, I'm not the best with rules, but sometimes I get there. So yeah, basically you can't exile like the second trigger.
Yeah, so it has the whenever. So Roaming Throne does
it has a trigger.
Twice.
You get it. But
the first one will resolve and exile that creature from the graveyard. So when the second one tries to resolve, there will be no card there for it to do the rest of the ability.
100%.
So it'll just do nothing.
All right, let me see if I get this one right too. Lazy Pants. Lazy Pants, that's what I call Lazy Pants. Lazy Pants, whenever it or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. The problem is do this only once each turn because you already did it. Even if you double it, you already did it. So you can't do it twice.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
It's like they're like, oh, this card would be too problematic with Roaming Throne. Let's just ignore the 1,000 other commanders that are.
I mean, unless you just blink this, then you can do it. I mean, it's not gonna go
Roaming
on Roaming Throne.
Still wouldn't.
Roaming Throne does not matter, but you can blink this to get around that, do this only once each turn, but you cannot Roaming Throne around it.
Yeah, and I feel like Pantlaza Lazy Pants is
Lazy Pants. Thank you.
Some of the decks will be Dinosaur Tribal typal. Other ones probably won't.
Other ones are going to be ones that are like Reality Scramble into like a Blightsteel Colossus, but like who would do that?
Monsters.
Who would do that?
Just monsters.
Check out my 97 lands deck, please. Anyways, moving on.
Right.
Similar to Throne. So you're trying to give people even
great.
more options to go more absurd.
Yeah, so these are cards that if you already play these cards in your deck, and this probably would have been a good section to go at the beginning of the episode, but we're too late. These are cards like if you play these, you probably also want Throne.
Probably.
First one, Strionic Resonator.
I love the new art on this one.
Yeah, it's great. 2-mana artifact with an activated ability for 2 and a tap. You copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this one, it's cheaper to get out, and it can combo with certain things that like untap abilities and whatnot. But it's limited to basically once per turn, whereas Roaming Throne is like, nah, let's just do it whenever.
And you got to pay for it, and it only applies to one thing versus all the things.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Okay. Irenicus's Vile Duplication. It's an uncommon card. Wizards, reprint it and get it back to budget-friendly, please. Although I don't know if we really need this one budget-friendly because it's pretty absurd. Create tokens, copy target creature control, except it's not legendary. Also has flying for some reason.
Yeah, so like, for example, Nekusar, any of the blue commanders we mentioned up till now probably would benefit from Irenicus's Vile Duplication. Side note, like it's an uncommon, but still like not that budget.
It is definitely not an uncommon effect.
No.
Okay, moving on.
Lithoform Engine.
Bigger Strionic Resonator. Bigger
Strionic Resonator. Instead of just triggered abilities, it can also copy activated abilities, copy instants and sorceries, copy permanent spells. It's, jack of all trades.
All the fun things.
Yep.
All right, Panharmonicon. You probably know what it does if you played Commander for a while. Basically doubles up ETBs for artifacts and creatures you control.
Yep, but it's only... I think that's one thing that really, when I saw Roaming Throne, this card is nuts.
Yeah.
Because Panharmonicon sees a lot of play. It's all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And it only triggers if a creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability to go. So like if something says when something enters the battlefield, do X.
Yep.
Roaming Throne just says triggered ability. So
Yes,
like
this is
again the when, whenever, or
it's a combat damage trigger. If it's like an end of step trigger, if it's any of these other kinds of triggers that this does not apply to, this applies to all of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Spark Double.
Spark Double. It's basically Ironicus' Vile Duplication.
Yep.
But a creature.
Yep. Virtue of Knowledge. Forgot about this one. Enchantment for 5 mana. Ignore the adventure part. Actually, that one copies into trigger ability. There you go. And then it also has basically the Panharmonicon, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But for all permanents, not just artifacts and creatures.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And you have to be in blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're always in blue. You play Simic. And I'm always in blue. I play 5 color. But it's
I do love these cards. They're all good.
it's $5, so it's never going to be budget.
Okay, so this is the next section.
Oh.
It's pretty brief. There's not
I
too
love
many.
it. I love
Red
it.
Adrabic probably should have been in here already. But
The potential. I didn't even realize that zombie implication right there too.
Yeah, that's
the
sweet.
zombie implication. That's what they
the
call
zombie implication. So this next one is
Magda.
also sometimes, at least partially, a typal deck.
Yep.
Magda,
Yeah.
Brazen Outlaw, 1 in a red for a 2/1 dwarf berserker. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure. So you're gonna create 2 treasures, and then you can search or sacrifice 5 treasures to search your library for an artifact or dragon card.
Can go get your roaming throne to start things off, essentially.
Magda just loves putting very, very cheap dwarves into play to just get a bunch of treasures and then use that ability to go get utter nonsense. So Roaming Throne just makes the process of getting to the utter nonsense very easy.
Yep, 100%. And yeah, you could definitely, or yeah, if you have it like in a Lord's deck, essentially a shapeshifter deck, you can turn this into every creature type or everything in every creature type, and then just tap your creature in other ways and then do crazy things in opposition, and then you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Masquerade Nexus is what you want because then everything in your deck is a dragon too. So
also, similar to the Sidisi topic we had earlier, Roaming Throne is an artifact, so you can use Magda's ability to go get Roaming Throne.
that's what I said, and you weren't listening.
Oh, I thought you said you were going for other nonsense.
I was
directly to Roaming Throne.
I still said. I think that.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
You were talking incredibly fast.
I was. So I'm sorry. All right,
bad.
moving on. Something else that is very fast. Bergie. Go ahead.
Bergie, God of Storytelling. Whenever you cast a spell, add a red. That's it. You add 2 red.
Double ritual every single spell you cast.
Yep.
Oh my
That's all.
gosh. Yep. That's. I mean, yeah.
You're
that's
just gonna
good.
fall into a combo. at
You
that
will
point.
win. You will win.
Yeah.
Okay. Jory Weatherlight Captain, the card that our commander can never play again. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Yeah, you draw 2 instead. And Roaming Throne counts itself, but it wouldn't trigger itself, would it? I mean,
No, because it wouldn't
it's
be
not
in
in
play
play. It's a
yet.
cast. Yeah.
But I feel like with Joyra, a lot of times, sometimes like you're spinning your wheels and then you just run out of gas.
Yep.
Like, and that's the most disappointing thing in the world. And this just makes sure like you're gonna keep the train going.
There is no running out of gas with that. Yeah, you were doubling that up. Okay. Kaikar wins Fury. Basically Bergie Jr.
Yep.
Essentially.
It gives you access to blue and white, but is probably a little worse depending.
Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you're making a spirit. Now you're making 2 instead. Second spirits for red. So again, it could be basically a Bergie-ish-esque. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
This one is great.
Don't tell Alec. I mean, Alec.
Alec is a gentleman and purposefully avoids infinite combos in his Orvar.
And it's probably like impossible to avoid infinite combo with. If you include Roaming Throne, it's probably impossible to avoid an infinite combo.
I'm pretty sure it is. So
I think
Orvar
so.
is a shapeshifter changeling.
Yep.
So you can name any creature type with Roaming Throne.
It doesn't.
Doesn't matter.
Night Stalker. Night Stalker.
Yes, you
That's
could
a
do
creature
Night
type.
Stalker. Yeah.
Look it up.
Yep.
Look it up.
Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets 1 or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. You could make a copy of Roaming Throne, and now you have 3 Roaming Thrones, which then any subsequent spells.
I didn't think about copying. I don't know why I didn't think about copying Roaming Throne.
Yeah, this is like double to the double, but just puts all of that to
So
shame.
you're saying, your opponent is like, all right, I need to stop this from happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Path to Exile Roaming Throne. And I understand that I've got to pay the 4, right? I've got to pay it in order to make sure that I can get rid of Roaming Throne, right? So I'm going to do it. Or no, it's other.
Pay
Never mind.
2, yeah.
It's just 2. Okay.
Just 2 for
It's
itself.
just 2. But then
Unless-
you're like, copy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, once you have 2 other Roaming Thrones.
That's true. Then
what
they would.
creature type is Roaming Throne?
Golem, I think?
Golem? Yeah, it's a
think
golem.
so.
It's a golem. So you can
So
name Golem because
name Golem,
Orvar is a golem.
And then the other ones would
And the
apply
other
to
ones
each other.
would get extra warded big. Oh my gosh! You name Golem with Orvar and Roaming Throne because then you could. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
No, okay, yeah. If you play Orvar, you are not allowed. You are literally not allowed. Like, I mean, this is like the first time. Or I just heard from the rules. Yeah, I just heard from the rules committee. I've got an earbud in right now. They said that if you have Orvar, neither of these cards are banned, Roaming Throne or Orvar, but you're not allowed to play Roaming Throne in an Orvar deck. You're just not allowed to.
Yep.
Otherwise, your deck is banned. Teshar, gross. Another uncommon commander that is definitely actually would start off rare. I think they toned it down to uncommon.
I don't know.
I think on a reprint they did.
Yeah,
anyways, whenever you cast a Zork spell, bring a creature card from mana value 3 or less back from graveyard. Yeah, there's no way that could be broken in anyways, and now doubling that up is crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely loops you could do to infinite combos when you get 2
Yep.
historic spells back.
Yep. Chulane, when some card designs in Commander Precon started going downhill.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely Chulane. I mean, what more needs to be said? He's banned. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw
he's banned.
a card.
No, he's not banned.
Banned.
Banned. I heard banned.
I mean, I wish. I'm a Simic player, and I'm even disgusted by Chulane.
You're disgusted because it has that white pip. You're like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, then you put a land from your hand on the battlefield, and then you do it again. So, like, you can just...
Put all the lands in your deck and play. You drew basically your entire library, okay?
Yeah.
Basically, with what's the Drake that bounces back and forth? Shrieking Drake.
Fleece mainline too.
Shrieking Drake's cheaper though, just a single blue.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah, Gyruda. There you go. You can even get out of your companion too. Enters battlefield. Each player mills 4. Get a creature with even converted mana cost among those cards.
Yeah. So basically, if Gyruda is your commander,
yep.
Your deck is going to be chock full of even mana valued clone spells.
Yep.
So then you choose Demon or Kraken. And then you have roaming thrown out, and now you're milling 4, getting another clone probably.
Most likely.
And if you miss, you get another 4,
chance,
and then
to do it again. You're
probably going to play your entire deck.
You're milling your entire deck and your opponent's entire decks. And so yeah, if you go to their upkeeps or their draw steps, they lose.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. The top 10 all-time commanders.
Yes.
And we have a number next to this, and I'm not going to spoil that number yet. We're just going to see how many of the top 10 commanders of all time currently, as of this date, Roaming Throne applies to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Number 1. I mean, I guess number 1 in mana value. I don't think this is number 1 in like play.
No, this isn't play.
I think it's in mana value. Yep. All right. Anyways, Yuriko the Tiger Shadow.
Yeah, Yuriko. So it's going to be a ninja deck. So you're gonna just name ninjas, so because all your other ninjas will have triggered abilities. Yeah, you get to reveal 2 cards from the top of your library, make your opponents lose life equal to both of those cards.
Yep. Yeah. This is one of those times where you probably would not want the card to go in your hand. I mean, you still you want the card draw, but also if you hit something massive, you're like, I wish I had the option not to put it in my hand. You know, you're like, oh, there's a 13 mana card on top, drain 26. No, yeah. You gotta do it twice. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry you have to draw cards with Yuriko.
Oh, shucks. Card would vanish.
Next up. Yeah, one of the most popular commanders. And if I had to guess, 5 years from now, Atraxa will still probably be in the top 10.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
4/4 with all the keywords. Keyword soup. At the beginning of your end step, proliferate. Do that twice.
Yep.
Very simple, very effective. Yep. All right, next up. Lathril. Yep.
Blade of Elves. Whenever Lathril, Blade of Elves deals combat damage to a player, create that many Elf Warrior tokens. So people love Elf Tribal. She's very good at it. So you're just going to make more elves.
Just glad that it's not like at the beginning of any step ever, you may tap elves. Yeah, 10 elves. There you go. So that does not double. That does
Will
not
Help
double.
is another one that's coming up here that has 2 triggered abilities. So why don't you take that one, Mitch?
When another zombie you control dies but doesn't have Decayed, you get a 2/2 zombie that has Decayed. So there you go. You're getting twice as many zombies. Whenever end step, you may sacrifice a zombie, which you have plenty now. I mean, you always had plenty. Sacrifice 1, draw a card, draw 2 instead. So there you go. Lovely. Ah, great.
Yeah.
Edgar.
Edgar. So he's a bit like a Rabo, Eminence Commander. So for his first ability to be doubling up with Roaming Throne, he would need to be on the battlefield.
Needs to be in play, yeah. This is the one time where Eminence does not get better just inherently.
No, thank goodness it didn't need it. But yeah, he also has another triggered ability that says whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. So you probably want him in play eventually anyway to just put 2 counters on all your vampires.
But then he could be removed, and that would just be too hard.
Yeah, then he'll go back to the command zone and still do the thing.
Oh no, my ley line's back in play. All right, Myriam, whatever it is, we already mentioned this one.
This is going to be so absurd.
This again is kind of like Radadravic. And both have Ward too. Again, literally when Wizards invented Ward, they're like, we solved hexproof. Perfect. Let's throw it on everything. It's absurd how many things have Ward these days when it's like they don't need it. This does not need Ward.
No, it does not.
All right, so basically Ward 2 twice, so 4. Another non-token dragon enters battlefield under your control. You get a copy of it. It's legendary. It's not legendary. So you basically can copy all your dragons and you double up all your dragon abilities with this, and it's just absurd.
And you're going to be in Dragon Typal, so.
Yep, you're done. The game's over. The game's over if you get Roaming Thrown out with this commander. That's just basically what it is.
And I think, honestly, Miriam is probably the stronger commander than Urdragon,
yes.
who's another another one in the top 10.
Oh, so now you're just trying to downplay your Ur-Dragon deck. Like, it could be stronger.
I could be playing Miriam, guys.
If I took out 2 colors, it'd be better.
It probably would, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like Ur-Dragon.
Yeah.
So Ur-Dragon has a triggered ability that says whenever one or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent from your hand on the battlefield. What if you just draw twice that many and put 2 of your biggest dragons into play?
It might not be better. It might be worse because you might actually just mill yourself and lose.
Theoretically, yes, but if I die that way, so be it.
Yeah.
I've lived a good life.
I attacked with too many dragons and won, but lost.
And surprisingly, I think we're pretty much at the end of the episode. There is another section I have in here, but these, I just was kind of noting a lot of these commanders that we talked about, they have really powerful abilities, but they're also typal. So this whole section that you're looking at, Mitch.
We got it. Person looking backwards.
Yes. Yes.
Again, maybe
Henry
the
Wu.
only commander that is not facing the camera.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other ones.
I mean,
And you nailed it on the head, though. It had to be literally like, would not
I don't
sign
want to
off.
give away my rights.
Yeah, would not sign off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got Henry Wu. We got Yuriko, Alayla.
Oh, God, you're going way too fast for me.
Lethwil.
I'm one behind. There we go.
Myrel.
There we go.
Wilhelt.
Perfect.
Arabo.
Perfect.
Thrakis. Bellacour. Edgar Markov. Miriam, Sentinel Worm.
Oh, I went too fast now.
Shelob, Child of Ungoliant. Gishath, Sun's Avatar, and the Ur-Dragon.
Perfect.
So, in summary, Roaming Throne is absurd.
That's
all I want to say.
Just look at your commander. If at any point it really says like when, whenever, or at, essentially, you probably would just throw it in your deck.
Yeah. Or even if you don't have a commander that does that, Wizards is going to keep printing legends with triggered abilities.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
That's kind of what commanders have become for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, people want... It used to be like in the olden days in Battle Cruiser, like when games lasted 10, 20 turns, like you could wait for like an upkeep trigger, but like you hardly see any upkeep triggers anymore because if you don't get value right away, you might already be behind.
Yep.
So,
or when they put like activate on sorcery speed, I'm just really bitter about that. I don't like that. Wizards, boo.
So my plea to Wizards is to at least reprint this card a lot. You shouldn't have printed it in the first place, but now that you did, you need to reprint it a lot because this is going to be a staple. Unfortunately, I don't like that word. Like, I don't say that, just lightly. But...
Yeah, it's kind of like, again, like saying like, oh, Soul Ring belongs in every deck. It's like, well, I can tell you a couple decks Soul Rings actually doesn't belong in. But like with this one, it's gonna be really hard to argue against. Again, if you have a typal deck, to be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't include that. If you had the budget for it, most likely you probably have 10 plus cards that work incredibly well with it, including most likely your commander. Yeah. And if you have a commander that, again, does have a triggered ability, most likely you build your deck around that, and you are utilizing that a ton, so being able to double it up is absurd.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, again, it's really hard, again, to argue against, like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't include that, but I guess, again, like, budget-wise, there you go. I always have that excuse. Okay, like, yeah, I'm not going to include that card in my deck, even though it's overpowered, because budget.
Yeah, my excuse for not including it in all my decks is because it's boring to have the same card in every deck. Yeah. I wish this card didn't exist for that reason, to be honest, because like I know that like if I don't include it in my Unesh deck, my Ur-Dragon deck, my Karaza card
I forgot
deck,
about Unesh. Just factor fictions left and right. It's going to take forever. If you play against Eddie's Unesh deck, do not sit on it. Take out Eddie first. Take out Eddie first. I promise you. You'll be like, oh, Sphinx is fucking be so bad. That's not that bad. Oh my, what's a Roaming Throne doing out there? Oh no.
Yeah. It's a fun deck. Anyway, it's one of those, again, I wish this card wasn't printed. I really do. It's such a strong card though. So like if you want to make your deck stronger, try it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where like, when Wizards actively pushes something just to sell things, and this seems like one of those where like, again, they could have put some training wheels on this. They could have put any kind of stoppers on it. And again, I'm usually not for like, again, I hate activate only sorcery speed on most things. I hate do this only once each turn. I absolutely despise those things, and I think that in my opinion is a bit of, I'm not gonna say lazy design, but I'm gonna say like that is like they like don't want to push it too far, and it's like, okay, come on, do some things for Johnnies and like let Johnnies do Johnny things. Number one. Number two, just don't design it to be that powerful in the first place where you actually have to include the text on it, number one. But then this one, they didn't include anything on it to stop it.
Yeah. And like 4 mana is a lot. Like it'll probably keep it from being played in less super EDH cutthroat decks. Yeah. But like if it was 5 mana, 6 mana, didn't have the ward 2, like what have
it does not need that ward 2.
But it exists.
Well,
here we are.
And again, they made it colorless so that it can fit in any deck. So again, they can sell more. Yeah. Wizards, Evil. Anyways.
But it's a sweet card.
It is a sweet card. It's a cool design. It's just, it could have used some training wheels, in my opinion. And again, it applies to way too many things.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it could have just been like, hey, if your commander's trigger ability doubles that, it would still see an absurd amount of play.
Yeah, the fact that like it seems designed for typal tribal decks, but it is so good that even if you're playing it just for your commander, you still want to play it. Like, that's probably push it too far.
Yeah, and again, I think it's going to show up in more non-typal tribal decks. It's going to show up in more, essentially, outside of that. I mean, it's going to show up in a ton in those, but even outside of that, how many commanders are there that are tribal versus or typal versus how many are actual, just like ones that have triggered abilities?
Yep.
Just an absurd amount.
Okay.
So, yeah. Crazy.
It's been fun to think through, though. Like, I really enjoyed doing the search and being like, wait, does this work how I think it works? And, like, most of the time, the answer is yes for this card.
Except for those two that we brought up, and don't get tricked by those. But yeah, when you sent over the list, I was like, there are 73 cards in this list.
Yeah, and that was just scratching the surface.
Literally. And
I didn't mention my Unesh deck. Unesh is nuts.
Yeah.
There's so many cards that work with this that we didn't mention. Please feel free to share those in the comments. I know we missed some.
Absolutely.
Thanks for making it so far.
Yes, my goodness. Okay. With all that, this was a very, Sturdio episode. Thanks again for joining me in the Sturdio, Eddie.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us in the Sturdio. Comment below with your thoughts on all this. And of course, as always, thanks again, Ed. Blame Eddie for letting everyone know how absurd Roaming Throne is with all these things. Bye.
Bye.
This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.